It helps when things obviously taste good.
Right.
It helps when you provide a level of hospitality that just feels so welcoming. It's easy to get people into your pocket in the sense where they feel comfortable and they release some preconceived notions of what they might not like.
Sure.
And it is really a matter of earning their trust.
Welcome to Tampa's Table, a culinary journey. I'm Jeff Houck. I'm Vice President of Marketing for the 1905 family of restaurants. And we're going to talk about innovative menus today with Ferrell Alvarez, chef and co-owner of the Proper House Group, which includes Rooster The Till, the Nebraska Mini Mart, Dang Dude, and Gallito. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you back at the table, man.
Thank you for having me.
So how do you know when you have a hit that's also innovative?
Not until like month 2 or 3 when it pops off and you get some good revenue and some good demand. But we get to a point where we test things and we crunch things, behind the scenes and try to find holes in it. And once we figure that we've minimized that opportunity to find the holes in it, then we go forward.
What's exciting you right now?
So many things. I think that, we're living in the land of opportunity, right? It's an entrepreneur's dream right now with Tampa and things popping up every day, every week. That's very exciting to see the city grow. You and I have been here for a very long time.
We have.
And I was the kid 25 years ago complaining that there was nothing downtown and it was tumbleweeds after 5 p.m. So to see all the growth just in this immediate area, let alone Tampa Bay in general, is really exciting to me.
A quarter century is a long time in the industry. Tell me about how it's changed, and especially how it's changed in the past 5 years since the last Tampa's Table cookbook came out.
Oh, it's changed tremendously. I think you probably know the statistics more than I, but I imagine we have 3 to 4 times the amount of restaurants now in the past 5 years. I think that, with the attention of Michelin in the state of Florida now, it's kind of made people a little bit more aware from a consumer base. And I think from an entrepreneurial restaurateur base, it's, maybe lit some fire under some people and put a little bit more quality focus in their eyes. So I think that's a huge bonus for us.
So talk a little bit about Michelin and why it's important.
Michelin is important. I think most importantly from a visitor tourism, perspective, there's a lot of people in the world that just travel based on the Michelin guide. So, when people are coming to Tampa Bay, they're looking at the Michelin guide and, seeing who's getting mentioned and, that's driving their decisions. Also, I think, like I said, it raises the bar for the restaurateurs, hopefully, that they start to realize that there is a level of criteria and integrity that you should be maintaining and, just doing things properly. So I think all of those things combined is really a bonus for Michelin to be recognizing the state of Florida.
And your level of Michelin recognition, how has that changed who's coming to your restaurants?
I don't truly know the answer to that. I would say that, just by watching how it's been over the past year and now year and 3 months, I think it's more of an education from the consumer perspective. They're starting to, people that knew Michelin were like, oh, cool, this is a Michelin place. So it's bringing more attention in a positive way. And people that didn't know about Michelin are looking into what Michelin is, and they're reading about Michelin. They're understanding the criteria, and then I think it's opening their eyes a little bit more in terms of how people should be running food and beverage, hospitality restaurants and venues. So hopefully it's increasing the quality across the board.
So back to innovative menus. What's your process for how you come up with a dish, play with it a little bit, figure out what works, and then put it on a menu? And I understand there might be a difference for each concept because you have different goals and different clientele and different locations. Yeah,
definitely. That's the first thing that came to mind when you asked the question. Is from Gallito, Dang Dude, Lunch Lady perspective. On the fast casual side, we have a director of culinary who's Mike Reams. Chef Mike's amazing. He opened up 21 Burger 21s. He worked with that group for a very long time. And so now he's with us. And the way that they do that from a fast casual conceptual side is we see basically all data and metrics run that decision. Whatever are dead dogs, we look at them and we think about what is selling well, why is it selling well, and then we dial in that. We test some things behind the scenes with the sous chefs at each unit. They kind of bring it to my attention. Then we do tastings from there. I give them feedback. couple more weeks on that, then they dial it in again, and then it usually goes to press.
And the unsexy stuff, how much does it cost? What are the ingredients? What are our sourcing? What's the availability? All of that.
Definitely.
And you've always thought seasonally, which is important, but also, I've been with you on bus tours. I know where you go out to the farms and you meet the farmers and you find out, what the best product they have and what time of year they have it. So that's all part of it that nobody really sees.
Yeah, absolutely. And that heavily drives Rooster as well, that type of mentality. With Rooster, it's a completely different beast. We have a new chef there, Chef Martin de Jesus now. He's been with us for going on 2 months. Prior to that, I've been with Brian Lampy as my executive chef for 16 years. He's been working with me, so we're like, he can think for me. But that process is a little bit different. It's much more of a creative process for me. It's more of what's going on, what's trendy, what ingredients are coming out, what I want to push the envelope. If I see something going on in Tampa and we have something similar on the menu, that's typically a trigger for me to change it. I like to just kind of, I don't want to be doing the same old thing. We have enough of copy and paste. So I try to keep it a little bit more creative than that.
I understand. So there's the business side of it. Obviously, you want to attract customers. How do you train the customers to expect the unexpected?
Yeah, gift of gab really helps, having Ty in the front of the house alongside of Miles and Carlin.
And this is Ty Rodriguez.
Yeah, Ty Rodriguez, my business partner, best friend, 20 years. He was the GM of Mise en Place. That's how we met 20 years ago. Miles Gallagher is our director of operations. He was formerly the manager of Rooster when we first opened 10 years ago. And then now Carlin Music is our general manager. Okay. So collectively, the three of them can pretty much talk anybody into anything. But, it helps when things obviously taste good. Right. It helps when you provide a level of hospitality that just feels so welcoming. It's easy to get people into your pocket in the sense where they feel comfortable and they release some preconceived notions of what they might not like. Sure. And it is really a matter of earning their trust when they're a little bit uncomfortable at Rooster from a food perspective. But we also have, the gnocchi on the menu, which has been there since day one. And that, quite frankly, is like the one dish that is very approachable. And if you're into food, you like it. And if you are not into food, typically you like it as well because it's pretty, it's pretty comforting. So that's like our gateway drug.
Right. So my gateway drug to you when you open Rooster, and I know I bend your ear about this every time, I dream about this dish. You had a dish which had cornbread, pork belly, pickled apple, and peppercorn honey. Yeah. And there were 4 things on the plate, and it looked so simple, and it just was this massive contrast of sweet, salty, fatty, tart, and I just thought, okay, the game has changed. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. It's no longer on the menu. I will always hold it against you. But, it's given me a sense of that one bite told me what your philosophy was. And I'm wondering, what ingredient right now are you excited to use that sort of lights people up like that? That you discover an ingredient and then you're like, okay, I think we can do this, 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 and this. Or somebody comes to you from your staff and says, Chef, I found this. What can we do with this? Tell me about sort of an ingredient that excites you right now and how you're trying to make it in a unique way that nobody else is doing, because there are so many great restaurants in Tampa now that everybody's looking for that unique thing.
Yeah, definitely. That's a tough one. I think that the foundation of the dish that you were talking about is kind of the foundation of my cooking, where I go pretty bold, heavily seasoned, and definitely balanced from like a fatty, acidic, salty, sweet type of flavor profile. Mm-hmm. That dish, like you said, the 4 ingredients really just spoke to that. I like things to be in your face and bold. I'm not like a gentle kind of poached salmon and really good olive oil type of guy. And there's a place for that. I enjoy eating that myself. But I think in terms of a single ingredient, I'm not sure. But for me, it's always acid. I need acid and salt. From there I can build anything off of that. And I think like having that combination really just makes things pop. And I think that some people shy away from putting that extra pinch on there. Right. And I think that's kind of where we're not scared to go that extra mile, and we make things a little bit more bolder, and they tend to slap you in the face from an umami perspective. Sure.
So you started with Rooster the Till, and then you started to make other concepts. What made you think that the audience that you had built at Rooster would follow you to the other places? Where was it their acceptance of atypical food or unusual ingredients? And I mean, your hospitality is impeccable. It always has been.
Thank you.
And that's from a chef's coming over the counter and the servers as well. Everybody on your server staff is just bulletproof in my opinion. But that's one thing in a sit down formal kind of setting. Nebraska Mini Mart is not that.
Yeah.
And neither is Gaito, neither is Dang Dude. How do you know that people will follow you?
You don't, hopefully you have some confidence and stuff, and there's some numbers that prove that it's a good idea to move forward with the next concept. I think that obviously we leverage our brand that we built with Rooster. I think that is strong, and it shows a great deal of integrity from a hospitality perspective. But on the other concepts, we take a little bit of that, but we also take a little bit of a different approach in the sense where we understand that they might not know who Proper House Group is, just because we own Rooster and we have a good name there. A lot of people don't correlate Gaito, Dang Dude, Lunch Lady, all in Sparkman Wharf with that concept. And sometimes they don't connect Mini Mart with it. Now, learning a little bit more about business education, through the years, we're starting to brand things differently and make sure that we do connect the dots. But with those concepts, I also think that we look at what is the neighborhood need, what's the void there, what would be cool from the conceptual perspective,
right.
And then we start to fill that void in that way.
It feels like people who come to Tampa now as visitors, maybe even first-time visitors, feel like they have to eat in town to feel like they've been in Tampa. There's always been the battleships of the Columbia or Burns, but now they're hearing about this new wave that people are surfing for restaurants, and it's almost like food is the new souvenir. And if they come to Rooster and the Till or any of your concepts, they're going to get a very specific taste of Tampa.
Yeah.
What is it that you want them to leave with? What memory are you striving to implant?
Just that Tampa is, up to par, up to snuff with other cities. I think that we've been the redheaded stepchild for so long from a hospitality perspective. And, I've complained to you about it for so long about just not getting
We've had a couple conversations.
Yeah. It's very hard to get some love and attention down here. And I understand, we've been slow growing for quite some time, but now I think we're on the up and up, and obviously we're getting a lot of attention now. I feel that most importantly, when people leave one of our establishments, I want them to feel like they had a true representation of Tampa, something unique, something interesting, something that speaks to our personalities as owners of the Proper House Group. I think that we provide that across the concepts, and it's a unique vibe that we give off.
Cool. This is the hard-hitting question.
Let's go.
Do you have a favorite tattoo? Do you have to have a tattoo to be innovative?
No, not at all.
Because chefs have a ton of tattoos.
Yeah.
I noticed I think you have one on your finger that's like a meat cleaver. Is that correct?
No.
Oh, I've totally misappropriated.
I got the all-seeing eye, and then I got the Elvis taking care of business
It's a TCB.
lightning.
Okay, yeah. I misunderstood that. My terrible vision made it look like maybe I'm thinking about butchery or something.
Yeah,
but
it was
do you have a particularly meaningful one that you?
I have a lot that represent some people that have passed in my life.
Right.
So those mean a lot to me.
Sure.
And then I have a lot of stupid ones that I got when I was about 17 years old. And those are also pretty fun when you have to go to the beach and,
Sure.
your daughter's asking you what that's all about. But, tattoos are symbols of great mistakes that you've made over the decades.
Sure.
And I started off way too young getting tattoos. I think I got my first one at 16 or 17, and my mom was certainly not happy. And back then tattoos were not a fad. Now people get them like it's just
you can buy them and put them on for 20 hours and then they're off.
I know. Back in my days, it was, bikers and gangsters
Sure.
only had tattoos, and my mom was pretty pissed. But I have all kinds of mistakes all over my body, but I embrace them all.
I hear you. So, when I was food writing for the Tampa Tribune, people would come and ask me, how do you do that? And I was like, listen, I go and I read, and that inspires me to want to write better. As a chef, how do you get inspired to innovate? Is that because I know you eat at a lot of restaurants?
Yeah, I stay eating,
and you study and you analyze it. It's obvious. Anybody who's in the restaurant industry goes to another restaurant. You're picking it apart like Neo in the Matrix. You see zeros and ones. You don't see necessarily just I'm going to have a casual meal.
Yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the ass to go out to dinner with me. You know, my wife definitely, she sees it from a different perspective now. But yeah, I'm looking at what silverware you have. I'm looking at what brand of plates.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the construction of it, and like, oh wow, that's a really great idea with the HVAC, because I understand things way differently now than just putting food on a plate. Things that inspire me, like everything inspires me. Frankly, like I'm into design as much as I'm into food.
Sure.
So I get off on the architecture, architecture of the restaurants. I get off on how they design menus from a graphic perspective, but I get inspiration from everything, because I think there's so many amazing people out there, not just here in Tampa, but all over the world. And everywhere I go, I find something that's super intriguing, and I'm pretty hard on myself to the sense where I'm always like, man, like that's so much cooler than what we're doing. And that gives me fuel in a positive way to know that we have to continue to keep going, or else people just forget about you and they move on to the next one. And in my business, that's not a lucrative approach.
If you're not going forward, you're standing still and you're going backwards, actually.
Essentially, yeah.
So when you got your start, one of the places that you started was at Mise en Place. Obviously, Ty was there with you. And Marty's going to be a podcast guest with us. The things you learned by working in a restaurant that you then take with you. The thing I'm excited about, and I've always been excited about your restaurants, is that it seemed a place that was a grow house, not just a business, and that you were growing to attracting young talent and growing young talent. I've seen them go off and make other ventures. And I'm wondering, what was it that you learned at Mise en Place, specifically by watching Marty and Marianne, that you were able to kind of incorporate and then say, okay, when I start my place, I want to do this specifically?
So much, right? I was there for 7.5 years. Clearly that wasn't my first job. I started there when I was like 19 or 20. And at that point I had already been cooking for about 5 or 6 years. But from them, I learned that was my biggest growth spurt in my life.
Right.
I went from being a punk ass kid to a punk ass adult, but I had my first child when I lived there. I bought my first home. I went through real life with them in conjunction with my biggest growth spurt as a chef.
Right.
And they gave me the space and the toolage to accept it, understand it, balance it, and then flourish with it. Marty gave me the space to be creative in his kitchen, which now in retrospect is a great deal of respect to let somebody have so much control in your kitchen, because I have several kitchens now and it's very hard to relinquish control. Marianne taught me that networking was one of my biggest things. And at that time I had no idea the magnitude of that word and how that would really play such a major role in my life from a business perspective. They taught me the importance of being a great person, even though I probably wasn't always a great person at that time in my life, because I was just a knucklehead doing crazy things. Man, so many different things, and then also like they would understand what I mean by this, because I mean it in a respectful way, but you also look at the things that you don't necessarily like in a restaurant and you file those as well and be like, oh, well, when I get my restaurant, I'm not going to do that. And sometimes you learn like, well, you have to do those things in order to have the other thing fall. Right. Or yeah, you didn't do that and I was able to create something new by not doing that. So everything is a learning process.
Well, there's also the moment where you thought you knew something that was different from what they did, and then you get out in your own surfboard and you're like, oh, now I understand why they paddled so hard.
100%. Yeah. It's like raising children. It's the same thing, and what you know and like now is not what you know and like in 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, and so on and so forth. And you can either get frustrated at that and have resentment, or you can embrace it and look at it as growth and just continue to use it as fuel. And that's what I try to do most.
Sure. So I know how much you love Tampa. I know how much you and Ty both love Tampa. Rooster is named for the rooster. The rooster is right here. We live it. We wear it proudly. Is there one Tampa flavor when you got to get centered and say, I want to taste my hometown? What is the flavor that you go for? Is it Cuban bread? Is it guava? Is it beer? Is there a Tampa flavor that really kind of reminds you of where we live? Yeah,
for sure. For me, being part Colombian, my father's from Bogota, going to Antojitos is a big deal.
Yeah.
Or not a big deal, but it's like, it's a staple. It's just what you do.
And explain what that is.
Antojitos is a Colombian restaurant on Armenia and Columbus. It's the second location, I believe. My dad knows the history way better than my dad's like the Jeff Houck of Colombian restaurants.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But so it's just a mom and pop Colombian style diner, if you will, and you go there for sancocho, you go there for some fresh fruit drinks, and it's just where Dad and I go. We meet, we have an empanada, we have some sancocho, we have a coffee, and we connect, and then we move on with our day. Very much like every Cuban restaurant in Tampa.
Sure.
But even that speaks to me. La Letronera and La Teresita really speak to me. Just getting beans, rice, and roast pork in some capacity, no matter if it's Puerto Rican, Cuban, Colombian. Right. To me, that's the quintessential Tampa, but I grew up with that. That's embedded in me as well. And that's kind of like what I think of. That's my reset button.
So your recipe for the Tampa's Table cookbook, what did you provide? And
this year we are showcasing the cobia collar. So this is one of those cult-like dishes that we have, I think, now. And if I take it off the menu, there might be they might revolt against me. So we're taking these cobia collars from Open Blue. So it's 100% sustainable cobia fishery in Panama.
What's a cobia collar?
So it's literally the clavicle bone from the cobia. Mm-hmm. Cobia being, you can catch them here in the Bay, actually. It's a local whitefish, rather large, meaty, firm flesh. The collar is exactly that. It's going to have the pectoral fin. It's going to look like a large horseshoe, if you will.
Wow.
Definitely bone in. First, we sous vide them with a little bit of soy sauce and lemongrass. And then to order, we're dredging them in rice flour, frying them super crispy. And then we serve them in a little bit of a nook cham that has fish sauce, lime juice, a little bit of sugar. Garnish them with some cilantro, Thai chilies. And it's just one of those dishes that I think every culture can relate to. Mm-hmm. For us, it's very much like fried fish and lemon. You got the whole cobia collar just sitting in a puddle of sauce, and eat it much like fried chicken with your hands. You get messy with it. So messy that we actually give you some hand wipes at the end.
You had me at puddle of sauce.
Puddle of sauce, that gets you.
What is it about the cobia collar that makes it flavorful? Is it the bone? Is it what is it?
Yeah, well, I think that the collar itself has a lot of natural fat in it.
Okay.
The sous vide process, I think, exploits that fat in a good way. And then when we fry it super high heat with the rice flour. So it gets really, really crispy and crusty on the outside. And the inside is just these big, huge, moist pockets of white fish. And then it's sitting in a very umami broth, if you will, of that nook cham. That fish sauce and the lime juice and the sugar gives you, like we spoke of, it gives you that acidity, it gives you the saltiness, and it gives you some sweet flavors, a little bit of Thai chili and some cilantro on top, round out the savory and some spice, and it just hits.
There's certain things, as you mentioned, there's certain things that customers, that resonate with customers so strongly. It's like, we can't take this off. We can maybe vary it a little bit and play with it, but it has such a visceral response to you. Like that is a foundation for us.
Yeah,
that's hard to analyze that.
It is. Sales and immediate feedback help you decipher that. But for us, it's like finding that balance where we want to keep a couple of those dishes as staples, but then we really don't. Right. Like we would all love to change the gnocchi, but it's like one of those things that's just so simplistic and approachable that the business mentality has to supersede the chef mentality on that decision-making process. And you keep those things for the better of the business, not to be the most creative chef.
And then the gnocchi, is that going to travel to Ash?
No, I think Ash is going to be more progressive, a little bit more focused. We're trying to look at all the Italian restaurants that we have in Tampa because we have a lot of great, amazing Italian
Especially
restaurants.
Within the past 5 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we want to go in a different direction just so we can offer something that complements them and not something that just directly, not necessarily competes, but offers the same type of food.
Just want to be unique.
Yeah, be us.
Understand that. So when you're at home and you've spent a long day working on all these restaurants and working with ingredients and being innovative, what do you make at home for your own comfort?
I get this question often, and I think I
highly
disappoint people. I think that people want me to say, like, I go home and I make a foie gras torchon, or, and I do something really elaborate. But I'm very fortunate because my wife loves to cook and she cooks very well. If I'm going home and eating something quick, it's going to be a lot of crackers, nut seed crackers and hummus. It's going to be Greek yogurt with fruit, nuts, and raw honey on top. And then a favorite simple meal is either going to be grilled chicken thighs or chicken cutlets with a little bit of arugula salad.
How exotic.
Yeah. Kind of boring.
You look for comfort after a long day like anybody else does.
I look for relatively healthy food. I don't really eat. I get home not too early, you know,
Right.
so I'm usually getting home late evenings or early nights, and I try not to eat heavy things. But yeah, I eat simplistically, and we do eat at a lot of restaurants. So every time I go to restaurants, I throw down. But finding that balance at home is key for me.
Sure. Now, you cook, your wife cooks. What about your daughter?
She used to, when she used to want to hang out with us, but she's not.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it does. That's what you told me, right? I got to wait another 2 to 4 years before I'm cool again. But she used to, back in the day, man, she was the box brownie queen.
Really?
Yeah. She definitely threw down on some box brownies for us, but no, not anymore. Now she's a chicken tenders or going to one of our fast casual spots.
It happens. She'll come back around. So if there's a dish that you could teach her that you would want her to have in her repertoire, what would it be?
It would be the chicken cutlets, man, because she crushes it. That's like her and I, we love when we're getting served some chicken cutlets and arugula salad.
There's something about rubbing elbows with your family in the kitchen that it's intense and intimate, and that's where the memories are made.
It's how I grew up. It's what brings us together, what keeps people together. I think every culture celebrates that, you know.
Well, I'm coming over to your house for late night hummus.
Anytime.
So what's in the future? What's the next concept that you're working on?
So right now we're currently building Ash. Ash is going to be a modern Italian restaurant, relatively small and controllable, 84 seats on the interior, about another 45 on the exterior. That's going to be in Water Street, right behind the Edition Hotel. We have acquired 2,000 square feet right next to that, and we're going to be doing a really cool cocktail lounge with a music/DJ focus on the weekends, something that's focused. It's going to be enough standing room to create a vibe and dance if you want, but a little bit more grown up and definitely not clubby, but high energy. And then we're thinking about expanding the fast casuals still. You know, we're in some conversations outside of the Tampa area, but still close by with the expansion of Dang Dude and Gaito again. So we'll see where that takes us.
Exciting.
It is exciting.
It's a future that is very bright, and I look forward to whatever you create, because it's always innovative and delicious. Delicious is the important part. And then you guys, of course, bring the hospitality, but I appreciate you being a guest today.
Thank you so much, man. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. Also, keep an eye out for the new Tampa's Table, a Culinary Journey cookbook that's coming out this fall. We'll look forward to having more guests at the table here, culinary leaders in Tampa. And thank you again.